Go.
For the select board meeting on January 6th, 2026. That seems kind of impossible. I'm trying. So to review the agenda, we have first public comment at 5:05, and then our general business before is review and approve the minutes from December 17th and December 18th. Review and approve special event permit for the new library grand opening on the 10th, on Saturday. Review and sign the new library MIAA insurance document. Conduct 2 interviews for the police chief finalist Ben Peters and Devin Pelletier. And then we'll go into executive session for us to deliberate about the candidates, and we will return to public session and at that point. Okay. So is there anyone on screen or in the room that has public comment?
Yeah,
Is there anyone? Okay.
Amanda.
Amanda. You can unmute, Amanda. We're ready for you.
Hey,
See you.
hi, everybody.
Hi, Amanda.
Amanda Alex, 16 Lakeview Road. I'd like some clarification on the reasons for tonight's executive session. I believe reason 8 is reserved for screening committees, which you guys are not. At this point, even a screening committee, I don't think could use reason 8 because 2 finalists have been chosen. By which time concerns about not attracting qualified candidates are moot.
So
Secondly, I
reason number
wonder
2.
why you want to interview the 2 finalists for police chief in closed session. You're the hiring authority determining the qualifications of the 2 candidates. Seems like the meeting should be held in open session where the public can observe the process. For the same reasons, sorry. I also wonder why you held a closed session at 4 to review interview questions. That's related. Okay, can you explain your reasoning? Thank you.
So yes, Amanda, we may have the reason number, executive session number incorrectly on here, but in our hiring process with the TA, also what we did was we interviewed the candidates in public session so the public could review. We did our deliberation and talking about the candidates in executive session. And that is because we will be discussing them and we have to go into contract negotiation if we pick a candidate tonight to appoint. And that can interfere with the negotiation process at that point.
Okay,
Yeah, and I
thank you.
I would just add too that we are interviewing them in public session.
We are, yes.
And we don't want to disclose what the interview questions would be. So that's the reason.
That's also a reason for doing an executive session
Okay.
for the question piece.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks for answering.
You're welcome. Was there anyone else that had public comment either in the room or on screen? Okay, thank you. So moving on to review the minutes from December 17th and the 18th. So do I hear a motion to approve the minutes from December 17th? So moved. Second.
Second.
Okay. Was there any clarifications in them or?
I'm all set.
No, I think they're fine. Thanks.
Okay, so all in favor of approving December 17th?
Carol, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye. And do I hear a motion to approve December, that was 17th, I'm sorry, December 18th minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Second. The only thing, my comment would be that it's one of the, just the GZA should be, doesn't it, GZA stands for something?
Yeah, we can write it out the first time it
First
appeared.
time.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then,
My old,
yep,
my old, right.
okay.
I don't even know what it is.
It's GZA, Geo Environmental Incorporated.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I can see why they use GZA.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's a bad
I
idea.
don't know that I've ever heard the full name. Noticed it, yeah.
So all those in favor of approving December 18th as needed?
Farrell, I.
Stalker, aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye. Moving on to reviewing and approving the special permit for new library grand opening on January 10th.
Yes.
Yes.
I don't know if you have questions. A long time coming.
You get it? There you go.
Thank you.
My only question is whether or not, I guess relates to policing too. Are we gonna police? I think the parking can be a bit of a disaster.
Yes, the police officer will be on site for
That's
the
all I
morning
need to know.
Activities. Police department will assist pedestrians in crossing Level
There you
Road
go.
from the highway department.
Perfect, perfect.
And so now the safety plan, it has the events listed here. So all in favor of approving the special event permit application for the new library opening on January 10th?
Carol, I.
Stock fry.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
And just as a quick reminder, we have our four-town meeting is now at 8 o'clock that
Yeah.
morning.
All right.
So I assume we will be back in time for the 10 o'clock.
I think we sort of have to be.
Close. Yeah. Well,
And we'd have to leave there at 9:30.
yeah,
9:30.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
We'll do it. It'll work. We are review and sign the new library MIAA insurance document.
So actually, we don't need to do this. I thought that Robert, Jane, our rep from Maya would need our signature, but they've already added the library to our policy, so it's paperless. So we don't have to do anything about it.
Right? Do we need to vote or anything on that?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Since we've already been embarking on this
Informative.
process, yeah.
Okay.
But I do have an unanticipated item that shouldn't take very long.
Okay.
Sure. You're ready. So we were recently awarded an ADA improvement grant. And in working with the FERCog, we're gonna do an ADA evaluation of all town buildings. And so what I need the chair to sign, please, is just the MOU
Good.
for FERCog. And the amount that they're quoting us is the amount that we were awarded the grant for.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to execute this?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, and the amount is $9,975.
And did they, the FERCog staff
Mhm.
does the evaluation? So they
We're
come
working
out.
on the elementary school first, since
Okay.
that's the most tricky to plan around. But then we'll be doing all the buildings, and then once we have the improvement plan, then we can apply for like action grants
Okay,
for different things.
All those in favor?
Carol, I.
Stock fry.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
Can I just ask one more follow-up question to that?
Yeah.
Was there ever any other evaluation that was done? I remember that there was had been some discussion about the access back here. No,
Not to my
yeah,
recollection.
I know that there were issues here.
Yeah, there are definitely some points of concern in this building. I'll now be curious to hear what other
What
ones
they have to say. And will the buildings committee be looped in on this when they're
Yeah.
doing their evaluation?
Yeah.
I just think it would be good if they're if the buildings committee is involved earlier rather than later,
Yeah.
so that
Very good.
they have an opportunity to kind of,
To be a part of
to
it.
be a part of it.
Okay.
And rather than just when getting a report.
We're still setting dates, but yes, let
Okay.
me email Frank
Yeah,
and just let him know.
I'm gonna pause here for a second. Can the person on the screen who has their name records please identify themselves? I'll ask a second time. If you don't identify yourself, we're gonna remove you from the meeting. Can the person on the screen with the name records please identify themselves? Haley, can you remove records, please?
I can.
and then do we want last names?
And last names. If anyone has a first name, could you please put a last name for records requests or records, please?
Do you want to point out who they are?
Sharon and Sean, can you add your last name to your online name, please?
I think you just go to settings, right?
Yeah, you just
Yeah.
go to settings and you can add your full name. Are you able to ask them through the,
I don't think there's a specific button that will.
Okay, no,
ask
that's-
that, but,
Sharon, can you identify your last name for us?
Can somebody say, do you hear us? Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you fine.
Thank you,
Okay.
Kelly. Sean, can you identify your last name, please? Sharon, can you identify your last name?
Is it possible they can't speak to you because they're muted?
I
We
can,
can unmute
Yeah.
them.
I certainly,
Thank you, Leslie. I appreciate that.
I don't know that's the problem.
No. Sharon, are you able to hear us?
That weird buzz.
I don't know. I did send a message though
Oh,
to
thank you.
ask her to unmute.
So that guy Sean on the way, right?
You did.
Yeah, we obviously just want this for the minutes.
Yeah, we
Accurate.
want it for the minutes so we can.
There she goes, Sharon.
Thank you very much, Sharon. We appreciate that.
Make it easier for Brennan.
Yeah, it will be easier for Brendan. It will. Maybe we should start announcing that at the beginning of our meetings.
Yeah.
When it's named, yeah. Yeah, for records. That would be very helpful. And you guys have all signed in.
Well, we have you in
Yeah.
video.
Right.
Right, because they can see the video. So now we're at the point of the interviews. Was there anything else to TA update that you
Yeah, this TA
had for
report.
us that,
It's been a lot.
no,
It's been crazy last couple of weeks. I don't know if I had a chance to say this. I can give an update on the dam repairs. So, we are approved to reuse the dam and seawall grant to fund the scope of work, the designing and the engineering from GZA. We still have to identify a funding source for the actual repair work. But I was able to declare a state of emergency, which will allow us to deficit
Okay.
spend until we can pursue some other grant opportunities. So yeah, I don't have a firm date for construction yet, but all the paperwork is ready to go and has been submitted to the states. I think that was the major one.
Where do we stand if any with the Zara, who is,
Oh, I need to connect with Donna this week to kind of go over the finer details of what we had talked about.
right,
And then I'll follow up with them and include you first.
okay, great.
I didn't want to do it over the holiday.
No, I'm not.
So
Just as much as
this is about access, just in case.
Yeah, I
people
mean,
don't
we
know, it's
can't,
about
we're signing
access to
contracts,
the-
to
Yes.
send the equipment down there. We better have a way to get the equipment there.
Right.
Just saying.
And we have sort of a longer term issue. I mean, it's not just an immediate solution with the abutters. It's making sure that we have
Mhm.
an agreement with them
Right,
for future
right.
needs too, for
Yeah,
getting access.
Because I should also reiterate that even though we're gonna do this repair work, it only gets us out of the emergency ordinance. It doesn't make all the repairs that we're going to need to make, and we anticipate those to be coming from the state as well. There'll be more directives.
Yeah, that's gonna be a financial,
Difficult.
whatever, difficulty. That's a good way to put it,
Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, I think that was it for major stuff. Really happy about the ADA grants.
Yeah, no, that's
Um,
great.
There's some things we can do with that.
do you want me to give another quick update on the
Yes.
Spear
Yeah.
use? We haven't met. We're meeting again this coming Thursday. So there's a committee that was put together by the select board to look at the reuse of the what we're calling now the MN Spear building. And five members on the committee. I'm chairing that committee. We've met a number of times to just explore kind of the basic information that we have about the building, and then kind of did an internal to the town of Shutesbury, a survey of employees and townsend committees about their space needs, and got a good response back. There was definitely interest on the part of some departments about the use of that building. And so where we are right now is, I think what we determined at our last meeting was that regardless of how the building gets used, well, maybe not regardless, but the primary things that we anticipate that how the building would be used, either for offices or for the location of a department, that we would need to have bathroom facilities and running water in that building. And that was one of the major impediments to when the different committees looking at expanding the possibility of expanding the library, it was one of the major impediments to doing it. That the library and the church both sit on the town common, and the town common has its limitations, having to go back to the legislature. You just can't do anything you want with a town common. So we're doing some investigation. We're actually meeting with Kat Hilton from the Board of Health this coming Thursday. Anybody's welcome to come to the meeting to talk about what are the implications of trying to put a bathroom into that building. And I was doing some research today, talking to I don't know what sanitation engineer, I guess is the way, and somebody who's familiar with the zoning issues. And what I found out, and I'll be reporting back to the committee this week, is it's fairly complex to do something like, even though there's not really a change in use per se, because we have
It's a public.
what's considered like the public building and how it's used now. But to try to put a tight tank there, if we weren't going to do a septic system, a full leach field and so forth, would be pretty complex and expensive. And the alternative is, and I think this was explored in the past, whether or not you could hook up to the to the town hall under the road with
Right.
both water and septic. And when I broached that with the engineer in my discussions, he said that's a really expensive alternative, because it involves pumps, and it also involves an evaluation of our current system to see whether or not
The well in the center of the.
the well, what he said is that, we could explore that, but one of the things that you have to be really, if there's some sort of septic system, you have to be a distance from a well.
Yeah.
So there are all these like different things. So I think what I'm going to do, what I'm going to recommend to the committee, and I'm just kind of letting you know, is that I think it would be worth our investing a small amount of money into going through all these alternatives with an expert, and This is a fellow who's already done work in the in Shutesbury, is very familiar. And so it could be him. I mean, we could explore kind of what other folks charge too. But we have that discussion with the Board of Health this week. That will be kind of the first step. And then, what I'm hoping is that, I don't know, when's our next meeting after this?
Hang on, I have to have it on the calendar.
We had to yeah. Um,
20th.
Regular select board?
Select board, yeah.
20th.
No,
Oh.
no. Oh yeah, February. I'm thinking ahead of February. I had to plan something.
Yeah, it's the 20th by what you sent us. from-
January 20th. Is that maybe at the January 20th meeting, we come before the select board to give an
think we
update,
can make
give a
that work.
report,
Yeah.
if there's time. So, just kind of put that down. I don't know if there was anything else that we anticipated having to do on the 20th too. There was,
There's a full hearing. There's a couple other items of business, so I think that would just about round us out.
okay,
And then I was thinking February 3rd is our next meeting after that.
okay.
Okay,
And I will not be here then.
Okay.
And tomorrow night, we are having a joint meeting with the
The
Finance Committee.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
And before we pivot, there were some new folks who joined us, an iPhone and two people, Steve and Carrie. So if you can either update your screen to have your full name, or just let us know so we can put it in the minutes. That worked for one.
Stephen Carey.
Yeah, I think so. The iPhone is gone. So Steve and Carrie, if you could just unmute or update your header, so that it has your last name. We need it for the minutes. Wait.
Tom Seifert has his hand raised.
Did you want to take a public?
Yeah, we can take a comment.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that per open meeting law, it's not required for people to give their last names for minutes.
Although it does make it easier.
But we can still ask.
Yeah. Right. So we got to fill 7 minutes.
7 minutes.
And does anyone know any good
Um,
stories? You got a quick one? What do you got?
Just, we're talking about.
Oh, I wanted to look up something.
meeting, energized. So Frank arranged on January 13th, whatever that is, next week, I guess, to have Mass Dave come to the school, which is great.
Oh, great.
So he's gonna get that done.
So that's this is a busy January. So January 13th is Mass Save.
Yeah. School committee knows,
Okay,
release the relevant people, so
okay,
I don't know what time though.
okay.
When we go into executive session, we'll use, I'm looking what, we'll use whichever. the reason number 3 is for negotiation. I think that's the fits.
There wasn't a long enough story, by the way. I said there wasn't a long enough story.
Oh, sorry. I will say there has been news for trying to figure out their law.
Okay.
So actually, number 8 does.
Jim Quackenbush made some inquiries, Frank made some, oh, actually. Frank is gonna get, band people.
Oh, GZA? Okay. Oh, nice. That's good. They've been really nice to work with.
Reached out to someone else.
Yeah,
And we don't have a date for another joint meeting, correct?
not yet, no. I think we sent out a poll.
We did,
I believe so.
it's under, responded to, I think.
I think so. They usually are. It can be recent.
Do you want to make an announcement about the stormwater committee?
Yeah.
I mean, you sent out the
Yes.
announce.
Yep, we did a town announce for the stormwater. I forget the acronym now. I made it.
Damn.
We are still looking for members of the public. We've had 2 people apply. One was recommended by ECAC, and so there are some other groups, select board included, that will need to nominate someone to join the board. And I did email all those committees again and ask that they send us their
Designate
names
somebody.
by the end of the month.
Okay. So, and how many members of the public?
We have at least one. I think, kind of depends on if other people are able to give us, because you obviously want an odd number, is what I'm saying. So it depends.
Right, okay. All right, what do we have? 4 minutes.
So
Better.
quickly looking at what Alex has said, so quickly looking at reason number 8. Part of that is to consider or interview applicants, and since we're considering an applicant, I think 8 still applies.
Okay.
Yeah.
And,
I just wanted to double check that.
so there, where is it in the open meeting law about the names? I'm just curious. You
It's
said
actually
that,
a case of it not being addressed, and so because of the fact that it's not addressed, people can attend public meetings anonymously. There's no requirement to be not anonymous to attend a public meeting, in other words.
okay, and so you're saying because it's not in the open meeting law. Is that-
Correct, right.
Do
So
you have a ruling on that from someone? I'm just curious.
I can find a lot of citations about
Okay.
not requiring people to identify themselves at
Okay,
public
'cause
bodies, open sessions.
yeah, because one of the issues that we had was we had a lot of Zoom bombing.
Oh, tell me about it in Wendell as well, and it's very
Yeah.
frustrating.
Yeah, so
Um,
when you didn't have a name, we had people coming in and then we didn't have any idea who they were and they were Zoom bombing. So that's why I'm curious about where what the citation, if there is
Yeah.
a citation or a case that you could share with us, I'd really appreciate
Yeah,
it.
and I think it comes down to people don't have to identify themselves, but you can remove a person for doing Zoom bombing or something like that. Um,
Okay,
yeah, I'll look into it. I'll see what I can find, but it's pretty clear.
okay, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Are the candidates coming in person?
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah.
They're coming.
Rita, I forgot to add one thing, if it's okay.
Ask Melissa. She's.
Oh, pardon me, Melissa, you're the chair. Yes, excuse me.
Go ahead,
But
Tom.
it's relevant to that question that Rita just posed. It is allowed to set up registration mechanisms.
Yeah.
Some places will require you to register for a meeting and then you get a link. And those are good, measures to take to prevent things like Zoom bombing. So you can have more of a gatekeeping procedure.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
How many minutes do we have? It doesn't have the time on there.
We have 1 minute.
1 minute? Right, so I'll move myself as a
Get into position.
Yeah. Slide these wires over.
Do you want us to move down here?
No, you can stay there. I'm just moving here.
But then will your back be to the screen? Okay. Is anybody else cold?
I'm cold.
Well, the doors are open.
And
Never helps.
I do so. Huh? Why?
She's turning just.
You notice that I wear heavy clothes, you know.
Yeah.
I have mittens on the dash of my car in case on the two chances I might need them.
Signed in.
Yeah. Yep.
Here.
Thank you, Rita, for
You have the seat.
we've met before. Nice to meet you again.
Eric Stalker.
Pleasure.
And Rita Farrell.
Oh, thank Haley.
Use my voice. I'm at the tail end of Unforgiving Holidays, and I brought water.
Wow.
So you'll have to excuse mine as well. So we will ask you some questions. So, did you want to introduce and do that, or do you want me
Oh,
to wing it?
you're
I don't know if you
there.
had something
I'm
planned.
no longer the judge.
So we have some public here and we have some on the screen as well. We will ask the questions. There won't be questions from the public during this session.
Okay. Very
It'll
good.
be the select board. So select board chair, Eric can read our select board members. So if you'd like, we can jump right in.
Yeah.
Feel comfortable with that?
Thank you so much also for being accommodating for the change to the 6th. I really appreciate it.
Not a problem. So I'll start with the first question.
And I might take some notes too, but
Oh,
thank you
please.
so much.
Please. Please tell us about yourself, your interest in the position, and why you feel uniquely qualified for the role as police chief in Shutesbury.
So I'm Ben Peters, born, raised Amherst. Got into, I'll kind of skip forward into the law enforcement part. Got into this career right in the beginning of 2013. Actually, this is the first place that I ever carried a badge, was the town of Shutesbury. The town of Shutesbury sent me to the part-time reserve academy at the time. I worked here under Chief Hardin. I then went to the town of New Salem and did work there. And from there, I went to the town of Sunderland, where I have had a truly amazing, blessed career to this point. I started, along with members of the department, just a number of really amazing initiatives that I'm really proud to be a part of. So many that as I explained to you guys last time, I wrote them down because I don't want to forget any, because they're all equally important to me. Yeah. Do you want me to kind of go through some of those things, or?
Maybe just the highlights, because we have a lot of questions.
Okay.
I think what we want to make sure is that
I just want to be respectful.
everybody, sure, yeah, that people get a good sense. We've been,
Yeah.
obviously been through your resume.
Okay.
But I think for the public who hasn't met you before, just,
Yeah.
what's some of the highlights?
So
are?
some of my most notable things, again, apologies for my voice, doing crisis hostage negotiations through the Franklin County SRT team. That has been probably one of my most passionate endeavors. It's funny, I tell people I'm on a tactical SWAT team, and they look at me strange, but it's all about negotiating and communication, and that's something that's really, really important to me. I do sexual assault investigations for the town of Sunderland. We previously didn't have anybody that was doing sexual assault investigations, so I picked that up. Additionally, ICAC, which is Internet Crimes Against Children, that was sort of a add-on to the sexual assault investigations. Again, it's something that we hadn't had in our department. From there, I'm a member of the Western Mass CISM team, which is Critical Incident Stress Management. Again, something that I feel very passionate about. It's basically a regional, state-run peer support system for law enforcement, people who have been through critical incidents. We're deployed all over Western Massachusetts for, fatal accidents, officer-involved endeavors. Just from the standpoint of peer support counseling, I feel very strongly about that. From there, I am the vice president of the Franklin County Regional Cadet Program. Kind of equally as passionate about, honestly, it's hard to rank these, to be honest. I'm I'm the vice president of the Franklin County Police Cadet Program. There was a want to start a youth cadet program in Franklin County. A good colleague and friend of mine is the director and president of that. We registered as a nonprofit, and I've had the amazing opportunity to sit on that board and do way more work than I ever thought that I would possibly do, which has given me just the most incredible management experience that I never thought I would get, just in terms of running day-to-day operations, running finance endeavors, and just managing both staff, managing cadets, managing background components, managing events, insurance waivers, just basically almost like the things that would be part of a department, right? Policy writing, that kind of stuff, been massively helpful. From there also, I recently started a student internship program for the town of Sunderland PD. We've never had an internship program. It's been overwhelmingly successful. A really great opportunity. One of the cadets that's in our cadet program, who's an exemplary student athlete, has just been a really massive success for our agency. What else do I have? So additionally, we run this thing called a Fall Public Safety Festival, which is something that myself and Trooper Deshaun Brown, who is a trooper with the Massachusetts State Police, he does community impact, etc. In 2021, he hit my agency up with the idea of doing Coffee with a Cop. And the idea was to just host an event that the community can come to, Coffee with a Cop. And that ballooned into probably the biggest public safety outreach that's, I would say, ever been done in Massachusetts history. It's possible that it's one of the biggest things nationally. The last one that we did was we did 2021, 2023, and 25. We had almost 100 participants from different law enforcement, EMS, tow truck companies, electrical service companies, mental health services, civilian agencies, basically anything that could possibly do with keeping the public safe. The vision was education and bringing that available to the public, right? We wanted a platform to be able to have those two entities coexist, and it's been very, very successful. We actually just moved to Greenfield for it due to the size of it. It's something that I've been on the news for. Very, very happy about that. I also do field training. I'm a certified field training officer for my agency. I've consulted for a couple other agencies to include Shutesbury, Leverett a little bit. Another thing, so sorry, I'm gonna
Go ahead.
take my water. Thank you so much for bearing with me. I do work for the town too. I'm currently the chair of the Insurance Advisory Committee.
This is in Sunderland.
In Sunderland,
Yeah.
yes. That's been a very interesting opportunity to work with the town, sort of navigating the very high health insurance increases that we're all facing right now. That's definitely been a very educational and insightful endeavor, just navigating those matters. In addition to that, I'm on the Zoning Board of Appeals as an associate member for the town. And I have experience working for the Amherst Survival Center on the board of directors for that, at one point as the chair of the governance committee, which was, again, just an absolutely humbling opportunity to be able to work with people who are just incredibly intelligent and smart and insightful. And doing that from the capacity of a police officer was very controversial and something that I learned so much about, just a great number of things. So that was an incredible opportunity for me to do that. Yeah, and I think too, a lot of these things that have been done are not, there wasn't definitive paths for them, right? These are all just initiatives that I just started. Again, thankfully to my boss, right? The chief of Sunderland has been amazing for kind of letting me run with things and supporting me through all of these endeavors. But these are all, most of them are brand new. Were never part of our agency, kind of built from the ground up, and I'm really proud of that. And again, Tewksbury is where I started, and I would love nothing more than to finish it here and bring all of these things to you guys. And yeah, sorry, that was long-winded.
You're on.
Okay, second question, I'm asking that one.
Try to be less
That's okay.
shorter.
As chief, you'd be responsible for organizing the department, establishing daily and long-term priorities, and designating an officer in charge in your absence. How would you approach organizing the Shutesbury Police Department for efficiency, and what criteria would you use to set priorities?
I think just touching on my leadership style, it's situational, right? I think that each situation requires sort of a unique approach. I think I would need to take time to sort of learn the ins and the outs of the current state of the department, and go accordingly from there. What was the last part of the question, if you don't mind me asking?
I guess the last, well, that's.
Or you can just from the middle. That's fine. I want to make sure I answer.
The second part, the second sentence was, how would you approach organizing the Shutesbury Police Department for efficiency, and what criteria would you use? Is that the one here?
Yeah, I would need to sort of get underneath the hood, so to speak, and just evaluate the current state of things, and sit down with each officer, sit down with members of the public, create priorities, etc. To come up with an honest answer for that.
Okay.
Okay. How do you expect to leverage the use of social media as a tool to interact with the public
A good question.
and as a resource, your job functions? So that's kind of the two parts. And for the second part, an example might be somebody's been harassed, a teen has been harassed on social media. So it's how would you use social media in your position? And then how do you, in the course of policing, how do you deal with a social media problem that's been brought to you?
Can you give me an example of like how that would be?
The latter
question?
part?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to do that first. And then
Then there are instances where the pictures have been put up on the internet that were something that was private, that caused great disruption and we had it happen to one of our employees. So it was an instance where it was something that they assumed was private, but then was made public, and it was incredibly sensitive information. So is there a role? I'm
absolutely.
part of my question.
Absolutely, yeah. To answer the second part of the question, communication, sit-down conversations, potentially education, if that's something that's warranted in the circumstance. Again, this leads back to the whole negotiating, moderating thing. That's probably what I'm best at. Just sitting down and having conversations and just trying to have people from two different ideologies sort of understand the broader implications of potentially something that's damaging, right? Or something that's objectively concerning, right? Carefully is, the overarching thing, definitely with tact. But sitting down and having conversations for sure. To answer the first part of that, carefully, I think social media is very divisive. I think it's also extremely important. We use social media for the cadet program. We use it for the Sunderland Police Department, both of which I have direct access to. I'm not, an avid poster myself, but there's tremendous, powerful benefits to utilizing social media correctly. But it's using it with tact, right? You have to be very responsible. You have to be very careful of making things neutral, right, and not coming across biased, et cetera. Which sort of leads into that second question of just talking, communicating.
And how about in the course of investigations?
That's a tricky one. It's definitely utilized for investigations. Again, it's case specific. It's not that it's mandatory. There are some circumstances where we do want to find out as much information before we make decisions. We want to understand a person. There have been instances of where it's utilized, but nothing that's been overly concerning or invasive, just basic, research, et cetera. I hope that answers the
Okay,
question.
yeah, it does. Thank you.
What is your understanding of the role of a strong police chief in this community? And what do you think as the role of the select board and town administrator in that?
My understanding of a strong police chief is that the chief is able to make decisions independently, not necessarily direct requests to the select board, but very much like I work with, the town administrator in my town. I have a very good relationship with her. It would be a very open relationship, if you will, just communicating, talking about things, sitting down, making sure that everyone is on the same page. Yeah, no concerns at all regarding that.
And what role do you see the select board in that?
Being part of the conversation, for sure. Never not part of the conversation. Obviously, there are some, quick decisions that need to happen in terms of, operational fluidness. But, any major decisions, et cetera, would be open conversations with the select board.
And what about the town administrator?
Likewise, same.
The chief acts as the deputy emergency management coordinator. Could you elaborate on your experience in emergency management and how you would collaborate with the emergency management director? He's actually I don't know if always the fire chief is the fire chief now here in Shittsburg.
So part of our full-time police curriculum is ICS training. That's a standard when you do a full-time police academy. And then again, just leveraging connections in terms of partnerships with state agencies, federal agencies. It sounds like the fire chief is the one who was running. Again, no problems at all with that. And that's something that, through the cadet program and all of these things, both with federal partners, state partners, the contact list is very large. Really good success, just having a massive pool of colleagues and administrative people from other towns, et cetera. Thank you.
Okay, all right. It's January, but I'm going to tell you it's February.
Okay.
And you're 70% of the way through your fiscal year budget. A major snowstorm has caused an essential patrol vehicle to slide, resulting in an accident. Insurance will cover the fair market value, but is insufficient to purchase a new cruiser equipped with the necessary radio and in-car computer systems. How do you manage this unanticipated expense, and what steps would you take to address it?
Carefully and tactfully. Just being creative with resources, right? I don't know that I can perfectly answer that question without seeing numbers in front of my face, but just carefully being resourceful, open-minded, willing to move things around, right? It depends on where things are at with the budget. Can things be moved around? Do some initiatives that we have need to be sort of tabled, right? I think that would be, again, taken on a case-by-case basis.
Okay. The petition, sorry, I too also have something going on. The position requires the ability to work in stressful and personally dangerous conditions. What is your approach to dealing with members of the public who may be upset and agitated? How do you manage? So that's one part. And then another part separate from that is, how do you manage stress and ensure the well-being of yourself and your officers in demanding situations?
To answer the second part first, just being realistic with myself, setting healthy boundaries, which is something that I'm trying very hard to accomplish. Creating just a very open working environment where people feel that they can ask questions, be approachable, the opposite of, toxic work environments, et cetera. And then to answer the first part of the question, all of the skills from negotiating, right? Just being able to remain calm, right? Build rapport with people, listen. I think listening is really important. We don't do enough of that, but listening and building a rapport relationship and working through problems collaboratively. And I truly mean that. Like, that's something that's very important to me in this profession.
And if the person that you encountered didn't respond to your remaining calm and listening, what would be so somebody's very agitated, very angry, it's not hearing probably well in that state of mind. How do you approach that with that person? Or do you have an example of a time when you encountered somebody who was not listening, was very angry, that there wasn't the threat of physical violence, but through words?
So I actually had a very interesting experience in Sunderland where we had two community members, and I'm not going to go too much into the politics of it, but related to the Palestine-Israel conflict. And it was regarding a lawn sign that was run over, and there were some very strong feelings, and we went for it, and I brought both of those people into the station and openly moderated, which was admittedly a little bit terrifying at first. But I really think sitting down and having conversations is amazing. And that was something that we don't typically do, but it was massively beneficial. And to have those two people be able to go into that conversation, not happy at all, but at the end, be able to shake hands is something that is a massive win for me. When I arrest people, right, if I'm forced to arrest people, right, it happens. I would say, notwithstanding substances, extreme mental health cases, again, I'm not condoning necessarily what the person is doing, but when I drop them off, let's say they go to the jail, right, the House of Corrections, it's a handshake. It's nothing personal. The same mentality would be applied to every facet of interactions and communications. Again, that's my expertise. That's my strong suit, is communicating and moderating, etc.
Okay. A well-known Shutesbury resident in front of yours calls, the police chief in your case, on your personal phone. A friend has just been pulled over by one of your officers driving 15 miles over speed limit in a residential area of town. They were visibly upset, acknowledging they were speeding, but explaining they were rushing to a family emergency and asking if you can personally intervene with the officer. How do you guide the officer in the appropriate leverage of their discretion in this situation while maintaining fairness and adherence to department policy?
Yeah, and that's a tough question, right? How do you, it's a small community, right? People know each other. It's a very realistic scenario that can come up. Again, just talking, having reasonable expectations. I think that if somebody is, objectively doing something that they shouldn't be doing, I think that, we're not necessarily in the business per se of, haphazardly, letting things slide under the rug based on our personal relationships, but also having an understanding with the staff of Shutesbury residents of what the expectations are, what our role is in this community that simply isn't necessarily just stopping every car that we see, right? It's a community partnership. And I think that there's a lot to be said for that. But much like all of these questions, or most of them, right? Having conversations, trying to understand what happened, what the circumstances were, and if there's any education or insight that can be gained, using that for future encounters, et cetera.
I guess as a follow-up to that, I would ask, so that situation where, let's just say somebody's gone, 15 miles an hour over the speed limit, which we routinely have through the center of town. Would there be any difference in how you would, interact with a non-resident versus a resident of Shutesbury?
I mean, if somebody wanted to have an open conversation with me, I would have an open conversation with them, whether they're a Shutesbury resident or not. Again, I think there's definitely consideration to be made for the residents of the town, right? We serve the residents of the town, right? We don't want to be oppressive. We don't want to be overbearing. That's not our job. Our job is community integration, collaboration, et cetera, on top of obviously enforcement. I don't want to say blanketly there would be a different approach necessarily, but obviously we want to cater to the residents that we serve. But those are very situational, definitely.
Okay, the chief of police in Shutesbury serves a dual role, both as a working chief who responds to calls and an administrative leader responsible for policy, training, and departmental oversight. This dual role can create some unique challenges. Can you provide a concrete example of a time when your direct engagement with a call for service or a resident interaction directly informed a departmental policy change or led to a new training initiative? And then I'm gonna.
Yeah, I can't say that off the top of my head that there was a specific encounter that caused a definitive policy change. But I mean, every week we encounter people and, we're never not learning, right? Yeah, and there's always room for, understanding, improvement if it's something that's necessary. But absolutely, if there is a circumstance where, policy adjustment is warranted, then that would be something that could be entertained. But no, not specifically anything that has changed policy. I'm thinking as I'm talking.
Okay. Conversely, can you describe a situation where your close community ties or daily interactions presented a professional challenge and explain how you managed that situation to maintain impartiality and professional boundaries?
Just being someone who does a lot of the community initiatives for the department. I have basically all of the businesses, in my phone, right? There's lots of relationships that I build every single week. Really, really great relationships. I want to say that overwhelmingly it's a positive, right? You have a mutual sense of respect, a mutual sense of understanding. You're building rapport with people. When you have to interact with those people, my experience is overwhelmingly positive. Are there circumstances where it does create problems? Absolutely, potentially, right? But just like everything else that we've been talking about, it's just a case-by-case basis, and it's just kind of doing the best you can and trying to be as honest and understanding as possible.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Beyond general accessibility, what specific community policing programs or initiatives would you prioritize implementing in Shutesbury? And then there's another part to that question, but if you want.
So firstly, the student internship program, which is again through Smith Vocational High School, that would be something that would immediately come to this community with me. Participation in the cadet program would be something that again would fall under this town, this community. The public safety festivals, those initiatives that we do would immediately also have, the flag of Shutesbury, so to speak, behind it. In addition to, some of the other initiatives, like those stay with me regionally, right? The experience training for, the sexual assault investigations, the crisis negotiation team, I would maintain that. But in terms of community initiatives, I would say immediately the internship program, the cadet, everything related to the cadets, and then the safety festival.
And then how would you measure the effectiveness of these programs in terms of building trust and improving the community police relations? And how would you adapt them based on feedback the community might give you?
Lots of conversations. Just talking to everybody. That's actually something I would be very excited to do, is to just talk to the members of the community, and just learn and get feedback, right? Not unsimilar to, talking to members of the department, right? Just getting feedback. What's been working, what's not been working, what are things the community is looking for, how can we grow together, et cetera. What do we see for the vision? How do we create a plan? That kind of stuff. Lots and lots and lots of very open conversations, for sure.
So I have a follow-up.
Yep.
How does either the cadet program or the internship program relate to community policing in Shutesbury specifically? So is that, those are things that you do that's countywide, is that correct?
Mhm.
But how do they relate to policing here in Shutesbury?
It's a great question. So cadet program specifically. So part of the role of the cadets and what the cadets do, they meet weekly on Wednesdays from 6 to 8:30. They have classes, if you will, right? Typically that's at GCC, and a broad array of topics are covered. But additionally, they do community events, right? And I would say participating agencies is the correct way to say that. Participating agencies have sort of unfettered access to the cadets in terms of community events. I also feel strongly that, so sorry. I feel strongly that having them present for community events has been very effective for another mechanism for the public feeling comfortable interacting with law enforcement, right? Because they're younger, right? It's just a softer approach, and it's been very successful. So if there are community events in Shutesbury, collectively as a town, we would have access to cadets to participate in events, to run events, to help out with this and other things. And that would sort of carry over into the internship program. Our intern has been massively helpful for basically all aspects of what I do. He was riding with my police chief today, for an example. And that's, again, another thing that the flag of Shutesbury, if you will, can kind of be behind. Again, it's a very proactive, progressive initiative. There's very few that are being done. I don't believe there are any that are being done the way that we're approaching it, specifically in the policies that we've come up for it, or we developed for it. But that's an example of like directly how that would impact. So you would be seeing that intern in town. He would be a friendly face. He would be potentially riding around with officers, getting to meet the members of the public. Again, just another way to interact with the public that's non-traditional, while also, again, giving him a tremendous opportunity for his future endeavors, right? Yeah.
Just one more question,
Yeah, go
if I may. Is that something that's available to Shutesbury now, that we don't just, any police department in Franklin County access the cadets or the interns, or is that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So typically, if an agency or a town has an event, they will let somebody from the executive board know, and we will put out that event. We have a very nuanced application thing that we work in the back end. But yeah, so towns would reach out, and we would put out a request to the cadets and see if we could get that filled. But much like anything, right, priority generally goes to affiliated agencies, right? So agencies that either have advisors or people on the board of directors. The hierarchy of this program is we have a board of directors. Underneath that, we have staff advisors. And then from there, we have general advisors. And that doesn't count instructors, right? Because we have prosecutors that instruct, we have members from the state police, we have anything that you can think of. UMass professors have done courses. Yeah, that's an example of that. So yes, you absolutely can have access to that program, but it would be a much more direct relationship.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, the role of police chief is critical for establishing tone, vision, and operational priorities for the department and the community. Assume you're selected for this role. Can you detail what your strategic plan would be for the first 90 days as police chief? And what are the three main priorities during this crucial onboarding period? And what specific actions will you take to execute them? It's a long question, so.
Oh, no, that's fine.
I mean, let you answer that. So let me read the whole thing and then you take it that way, or you want to?
I can start answering the first part.
All right, do that.
Yeah, just having conversations. I think there would be some soaking, if you will, right, of just sort of absorbing the current state of the town, the current state of the department, what people's where everyone is at, right? Again, asking those questions. What are we missing? What are we needing to do? I don't know that I can answer specifically what would be done in the first 90 days, other than many weeks of conversations, ranging from very easy ones to very, very hard ones. But I'm again would be so fortunate and passionate to be in a position to have those conversations. So not rushing things, being patient, and just again being willing to listen to quite literally anybody that has any type of commentary, feedback, anything.
All right, the second question that's related to this.
Second part of the same
Second part of the same question is describe your plan for conducting a thorough assessment of the department, parentheses, personnel, resources, current operations, that type of thing. Which key internal and external stakeholders, for example, the select board officers, community groups, and so forth, will you prioritize meeting with during this time? And what specific information will you seek from each?
Everyone, right? I think that members of the speaking to members of the department, interviewing existing members is just as important as having conversations and interviews with the members of town government as well as residents of the community. I would, for the department, I would do individual interviews with existing officers, and again, those questions of what's working, what's not working. Just a lot of open dialogue, and the same for members of the town government and the community. A lot of talking.
Right. Hope your voice is feeling better.
I know from last time, my voice is like very normal sounding. This is like what I'm like, God.
You should have brought the lozenge.
So the third part of the question is based on your understanding of Shutesbury, identify one specific achievable early win, a low-cost, high-impact initiative that would aim to accomplish within the first 90 days to build immediate credibility with the department and the community.
I think something that's easy that I'm thinking of, again, would be carrying over that internship program. Just as something that I know that I can personally implement that will be successful. And then again, I think things will just present themselves, right? Not unsimilar to how a lot of these other endeavors have happened. I'm very open to anything. I don't ever get stuck on one mentality. If there's an approach that works better, I will take all feedback and apply it. I'm not stuck in anything. So I think things would quickly present themselves. Hard exactly to tell what that would be right away. But I think things would present themselves. I think just honestly having a lot of really good dialogue would be something that would be noticeable immediately.
Okay, back to another
Yeah.
situation here. So imagine you've identified a recurring issue in Shutesbury, for example, increased complaints about minor property damage and irresponsible use of boats on Lake Wyola during the summer. As our chief, you have a limited budget and a small team to address the seasonal enforcement demands. How would you go about creating programs, or would you create programs to address the issue? And then I'll follow up.
Yeah, definitely if there were applicable programs, absolutely. Again, similar to everything else. If there were, you know, creative ways to solve problems, I absolutely would entertain any and all available ways to handle certain things. Setting realistic expectations, I think, again, considering budgetary constraints, et cetera. But, you know, understanding what the problems are, having the conversations, right? If there's specific entities that are, you know, requiring more attention than other entities, making sure that those conversations are happening, et cetera. Not just a blanket, you know, enforcement, right? I mean, obviously enforcement is part of it, but
Okay, so let's say you came up with a program or an approach to dealing with to vandalism. How do you measure the effectiveness of that?
I think just from a feedback from the community and then from statistics, right? If there's X number of vandalisms and we implement a policy or a procedure or a mentality to address that problem, if there's a sheer, you know, numerical drop, then that's a way that we can measure that. Additionally, just sort of the perception from the community, right? What do they feel? Is there a noticeable change in the day-to-day from their perspective, right? I think those two ways are good parameters.
Okay, and just lastly, can you talk about how you would gather feedback from the community and how you might, if needed, adapt your approach?
Adapt my approach?
Adapt the approach to the problem. Let's say you came up with a let's take the motorboats because that's a little trickier than vandalism. So, you know, we had an issue over the course of this past year with and we actually had a committee looking at speeding on Lake Wyola. There was an accident that had happened, and it kind of prompted a kind of another look at, gosh, you know, do we have to make some changes? What do you see as sort of the role of the police department when there was a reportable incident, and in developing a response to that, coming up with a program?
I think, again, for me, it would be sort of understanding what the past practices and enforcement strategies that are already implemented for that. I think I would definitely need to know and understand that prior to making an informed comment on that. But just isolating the problem and examining different ways that it could be solved, right? Is it one person that's needing lots of reminders? Is it a need for a policy that would fix a broader issue that wasn't necessarily one person, but more generalized, that type of response, if that makes sense.
Good, thank you.
Yes. And do you have any questions for us?
I do. I also, is it okay if I just talk about one more thing that
Yeah, you can add in
So,
something else you'd like us to know.
another thing too, just to kind of speak to the open communication style. Sure. I try to do this as quick as I can. So we have an educational facility called North Star Learning Center in Sunderland. Again, this is why I wrote all these things down. I'm glad I did that. So a number of years ago, we had a student from North Star. I'll just call them an individual. They don't let student. It's a very self-directed. It's in the name, self-directed learning center. We had an individual that was a member of North Star. and it was a bridge situation. They were on the Sunderland Bridge. It ended up being a Section 12 circumstance, and I reached out to my boss and sort of inquired if we had any type of relationship with North Star. We didn't. I subsequently went to North Star and have for the past number of years been, very slowly developing relationships with that organization. I really believe in what they do, but it's been extremely nuanced in terms of being able to work with some of the just work with that organization. They don't want uniform police officers at the center. They don't want to interact with a police officer that's armed. I have hosted a bunch of open forum sessions at the library wearing plain clothes, certain circumstances unarmed, and have had extremely beneficial dialogues with not only the staff, but the students as well. Just sort of, again, being open to the conversations and stuff. That's been a really powerful experience. But yeah, I appreciate your time. This is definitely a very, very amazing opportunity to sort of see what I feel some of the things that are lacking from this profession are, and to be able to be in a platform to execute on those things is something that I'm very passionate about. I think this is an amazing profession that has some things that we can do to work on it, and to be in a position to affect those changes, not only for the town of Shutesbury, but also just being part of the more plugged in ecosystem and being able to have a meaningful impact on that would be something that would be amazing, quite frankly. And I guess I'll leave it for a question for you all. Do you have any reservations or things that are sort of top priority concerns when you're going through your process? Possibly anything that I could touch on or speak to.
In that last story, can you just tell me what a Section 12 situation is?
So
Yeah.
absolutely.
No.
So a Section 12 is an involuntary hospitalization.
Okay.
Right. So what that is basically if somebody presents themselves as either a danger to themselves, a danger to other people, or they have an objective inability to care for themselves, it requires further evaluation from the hospital. And those are circumstances where once a threshold is sort of met and exceeded, somebody would have to go through that process. We've made really, really good strides for the CSO program that we're a part of in Sunderland. Our collaborative group is Sunderland, Whately, and Hatfield. I work very closely with the co-responder doing those types of endeavors, and that program has been very helpful in reducing sort of unnecessary police encounters and keeping people out of the system, so to speak. It's a diversionary program, if you will. Okay, that's a good question.
That's good.
I don't think I have any questions beyond what we asked here, but
Okay.
again, I'd repeat, if you had questions for us. for any
What are
of
you
us.
guys looking for in an ideal candidate for Shutesbury chief?
Well, that's a great question. I think each one of us probably has something slightly different. So for myself, having lived here all of my life and experienced multiple types of policing in Shutesbury, I think for me and a portion of the community is someone that has a relationship with the community, that people feel comfortable to approach, that has the ability to do what they need to necessarily with the policing part, but has the ability to use a lot of discretion in dealing with residents, the community at large, even, beyond the Shutesbury walls of Shutesbury. So that's kind of, an ability to adapt to that. And I know that's not always easy.
No.
So,
Unfortunately.
Rita, here.
Yeah, I guess I would just second what Melissa said around, I think the overriding interest on the part of the community and of this select board and of previous select boards is really the community policing model. And that is that, you know, we have a department that is that takes its responsibilities seriously in terms of law enforcement, but you know, brings to the community a sensibility about how important it is to have a good relationship, you know, with our police officers, and that people feel that there's good leadership there, but there's also compassion and an awareness of the unique characteristics of our community. So, you know, you want both things. You want to have that feeling of, well, if I need a police officer, they're going to be there. I feel confident that we have people kind of watching out for us. By the same token, that it's not that it's done in such a way as to be sensitive to, you know, who we are as a community. And we like to fashion ourselves as very special. We're not, you know, we're diverse, but I think, you know, if you were to survey folks here, for the most part, you would get a very strong emphasis on having a police department that people are very comfortable with, in both feeling that they'll be there in the case of an emergency, but they're also there to, you know, for the good parts. And I think, you know, we've worked hard at that here. And
Is that something
been
that's
pretty
still
successful? Yeah.
a deficit?
Is that still a deficit? I don't think so. I think it's really, you know, you always have instances where you have individuals who can become a problem when you know, individual police officers. But I think as an overarching approach, that community policing, you know, has worked for us.
And to add something to that, which reminded me, is Shrewsbury did community policing before there was such a term as community policing. All of those years ago,
Yeah.
the chiefs and the officers that's what they were doing. And to have come back to that full circle and now have a term to call it. So, you know, that was the part of what makes us special in that. So.
What they said, that
Really?
We trained him well.
it's a good question on your part. But that would be my answer, be very, very similar. Be to exactly.
Yeah.
Not a deficit. How can you make it greater?
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Like there's definitely work to be done in this profession on a number of levels. But you know, doing what we can, again, the opportunity would be amazing to have that platform. But
Great. Well, thank you so much for coming
Absolutely.
in. I hope your voice improves.
Yeah.
you also
Yeah.
Thank you. Nice to meet
Rich,
you.
appreciate
Take
it.
care.
Very nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Nice to see you again.
Okay.
All right.
We have 5 minutes, six minutes for the next one. So
Did that work out? Okay.
it did. We
Yeah,
fit the time
okay.
perfectly.
All
And we
right.
have 6 minutes in between, and
Okay.
I think it did.
Good.
We're staying on time.
We're staying on time and we have it down now. Melissa, Eric, Rita, Melissa.
Yeah.
I have to write I just have to write my
I did.
reminder to myself here.
All right, that's all right. Just make sure you like clang a lot of chairs
Yeah.
on your way out, make a distraction. That's
You went to
You
get the
ready?
last one, whenever. Are you guys ready for the next one? Do you want a breather?
I'm good.
Yeah.
Okay.
You good?
I saw someone in a suit in the.
I saw.
So number 10 is Melissa. I get this, make sure I'm right here.
We're ready.
Okay.
We're ready. He doesn't have to. I mean, we're gonna do the
Yeah.
second interview. It'll probably take about an hour and then we do executive and I don't know how long that'll go. And then we'll come back and then we'll announce. I left after my interview.
Couple
Yeah.
hours.
Yeah.
We're looking at a couple hours, yeah.
Yeah, it's a couple.
Weather report in between.
Yeah.
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 Okay. All right. Hello.
Guys for sharing my resume
Okay.
as well as
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you.
you're welcome.
I think we've all met, but
Yeah. Right.
I'm Rita Farrell.
Eric.
I'm Eric. He knows me. I know him.
The audience. Right.
To be honest.
So we have some people in audience and on screen. And they're here to listen, not to ask questions. The questions will come from us, like board members. Excuse my voice. So if you're okay, we're gonna jump right in. Is that good? Okay. So please tell us about yourself, your interest in the position, and why you feel uniquely qualified for the role of police chief at Shrewsbury.
Well, I'm Devin Pelletier. I think you guys know me. I feel uniquely qualified. I've been doing the job for the last 6 months. I understand the needs of the community, the wants of the community, the economics of the community, different budgetary restraints, and what small town policing needs. And I think I'm uniquely qualified for it just because I've been doing it for the past 6 months. Yeah.
Okay.
Is
As-
there anything else just about your interest in the position? Like, I think the first part was like, tell us about yourself a little bit more and your interest in the position. So there might be people here who haven't met you.
Oh, well, I've been with Shrewsbury for the last 3 years. Prior to that, I was with American International College for 3 years, and was the administrative sergeant at American International College. I hold some specialized certifications in sexual assault investigation, crisis intervention training. I'm a certified school resource officer. And so I have the professional background for it. I like the administration piece to it. And I'm sorry, Rita, you said the second part was the interest in the position.
Yes, and why are you interested in being police chief here?
I want to add stability to the town of Shrewsbury. I think we've been through several police chiefs over the course of the last decade. And I believe some stability, some long-term stability of a police chief to stick around and, stay with the department to create that stable environment for the officers, but for also the community.
Okay, as chief, you'd be responsible for organizing the department, establishing daily and long-term priorities, and designate an officer in charge in your absence. How would you approach organizing the Shrewsbury Police Department for efficiency, and what criteria would you use to set priorities?
So for priorities, a lot of priorities, you have to have long-term goals and short-term goals. And organization is key to that. Making sure that I'm a big fan of spreadsheets. Making sure that you have those tools in place, which in turn creates efficiency when you have a lot of the spreadsheets. It can help you track your short-term goals, which eventually lead to your long-term goals. So as long as you stay on that path, ultimately you achieve all your goals.
Would you do anything different to the organization of the department than what's already there? Probably you've been there for a while, so you've done a little organizing. So
Yeah, I've done some organizing with budgetary things, trying to kind of make sure the money's being spent appropriately, and re-emphasizing on our community policing initiatives. We did the community giving tree this year, which was the first time for it, and that was very successful. And just kind of having different community policing ideas, rather than, buying stuff, having actual events and that sort of thing.
Okay, how would you, or how do you leverage the use of social media as a tool to interact with the public? Sort of one piece. And then as a resource for your job functions, like for investigations. And I give an example of in the course of your job, if something came up with regard to a teen who is being harassed on social media. So it's kind of social media as a way to communicate, and then social media as something that's present, being used in our community that could present itself as a problem for an individual.
I think we have to be careful with social media because although it's a great tool, putting too much of yourself on the internet can be problematic. That being said, it is a good tool for posting information like the department Facebook page. I don't personally use much social media at all. I do have like a Facebook, but I don't post anything. If in terms of having a issue in town with social media, like you referenced with maybe a youth, there's a lot of times, there's a lot of different, in fact, I'm looking into one right now. There's a lot of different organizations that will do social media education. So kind of educating parents and the public on safe social media habits, parental controls, those sorts of informational sessions that I think are very beneficial for parents and for everyone to have more of a understanding of what you can do on social media and how that all works. As far as investigations, social media can be useful for investigations, but it's more of a specialty niche for people that are specifically trained in like cyber investigations in that aspect.
So that's not something, so that's something that would be outsourced then?
It would depend on the situation. It would depend on the situation. It depends on like if forensic recovery needed to be done by a device or done from a device, that would have to be outsourced to the state police crime lab, because they have the resources for it. So certain aspects of it would have to be outsourced to the state police. Other aspects of it, using it as an investigative tool to kind of get background or getting different data we could do in-house.
And in terms of how the department itself communicates through social media, how do you see that operating?
I like transparency.
How does it currently operate?
Currently, I like transparency.
Mhm.
So with road closures, now we are struggling to get our Facebook numbers up there, our followers, because we had to recreate a Facebook page. So follow us. And it's a good tool for public awareness. So if a road's going to be closed, or even when storms are coming, I've offered, to put that type of information out there too. So I'd like to do more social media use for informational purposes. We don't have, like I said, we don't have the following yet to really reach a lot of people with it, but that's why I think ultimately, eventually, it will be a really good tool for that, because we'll have a lot more reach on social media. It is being used now. We used it for the community giving tree, but we also asked, because we partnered with the athletic club and the Shutesbury Community Church, the fire department, and the school, we asked that they put on their social medias to the program flyer as well. And that actually helped to draw in some followers to our Facebook, which was extremely helpful. And it's a good, it was a great way to bring in folks from kind of all aspects of Shutesbury, the library as well, the library's Facebook as well, because they all have their own newsletters and that sort of thing. And some people may, follow the library newsletter, but not follow the church. So it was a way to kind of bring all of that in. So I think there's a lot of potential with appropriate social media use.
And do you see it as the police department's role to do social media education? I mean, I don't think it's something we've ever done here, right? As far as I know, have we?
No, not through the police department.
But is that an appropriate role?
I do believe it's an appropriate role for things such as road closures.
I'm talking about social media education for parents.
Yeah, that falls under the purview of the police department. I think if there's an educational course available, it behooves us to put that out there. Any free education, there is one now that's going to be held, and I plan on putting that information out for parents. I know I've attended one. I think it was in Leverett. Yeah, it was in Leverett. Probably 2 years ago, and it was extremely informational for officers, but also for parents, because you have specialists from all different areas. I think it is our role to try to provide as many resources to the community as we possibly can.
Good, thank you.
What is your understanding of the role of a strong police chief in this community? What do you see as the role of the select board and town administrator?
Well, a strong police chief has basically operational control over day-to-day operations. That being said, the select board is elected, and the town administrator is an extension of the select board. So, I believe that we all have to work together collaboratively to meet our common goals, our common goals as a community. And I think that's through collaboration. There's, the strong chief statute points out that chiefs are in control of day-to-day operations, equipment, and those sorts of things. But at the same time, I think when it comes to policies and that sort of thing, we should be seeking select board input and community input sometime with certain things. to try to involve as many brains as possible is normally always better, to try to get more input.
And how about the town administrator?
The town administrator, as I said, is a extension of the select board. You know, my view is the town administrator is kind of I don't like the term go-between.
We like it. I'm just
It's
kidding.
practical.
I don't like the term, but it's because the town administrator is a full-time employee, a lot of responsibilities fall on the town administrator. So, you know, I've worked closely with Haley over the last 6 months. And, you know, we have a very good working relationship, as well as working with the select board members, so I view select board and the town administrator and just the town officials in general as it's all good resources to further and to kind of, like, I've used the word collaborate a few times, but collaboration is very important.
So the chief, as you know, acts as the Deputy Emergency Management Director. Can you please elaborate on your experience in emergency management and how this collaboration might be different, or how would you collaborate with the emergency manager in Shutesbury?
So I've helped review the SEMP plan, for those that might not know, the Comprehensive Emergency Management Plan, with Chief Cerwonka. I work closely with Chief Cerwonka. We have frequent meetings, kind of, you know, informal meetings about more emergency management related items. I've been to the emergency management, the official emergency management meetings, as well as a tabletop exercise we had that I felt was very beneficial. I do have the FEMA trainings, and because I'm school resource officer certified, a large portion of school resource officer certification focuses on emergency management, in the sense that schools are a very sensitive area. So there's a lot of different things, natural disasters, and many different things. So I've also met with the school and the emergency management director in that capacity to make sure we have good plans and functional plans, and that plans are being reviewed periodically to make sure that they're still up to date.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're good?
Good.
All right. So I'm going to give you a situation and I'm going to tell you it's February now, even though it's really January. Okay, here we are in February. It's a trick question. And you're 70% through your fiscal year budget. A major snowstorm has caused an essential patrol vehicle to slide, resulting in an accident that totaled the vehicle. Insurance will cover the fair market value, but is insufficient to purchase a new cruiser equipped with the necessary radio and in-car computer systems. How do you manage this unanticipated expense, and what steps would you take to address it?
Well, being mostly through the fiscal year, I would leverage our small cruiser maintenance budget. I think if we're mostly through the year, we may be able to use the whatever remaining funds there are in that account to absorb some of the cost. However, I do believe we have really good insurance, so I don't foresee that would be an issue. But I ultimately we'd have to go to the finance committee because our budget is very limited to absolute necessities, operational needs. So that being said, I would still try to use that cruiser maintenance budget if we were that close to the end of the fiscal year and I knew that the maintenance on the other cruisers was sufficient to get us to the next fiscal year.
And is there anybody other than the finance committee that you would
Well, the select,
say? Okay.
sorry, yes,
Yeah.
I would first go to the select board and the finance committee.
Good, thank you.
Yes, this position requires the ability to work in a stressful and personally dangerous conditions. What is your approach to dealing with members of the public who may be upset or agitated? How would you manage stress and ensure the well-being of yourself and other officers in demanding situations? You can take it one and then the other if you want. You don't need to do them.
Yeah, I crisis intervention training is a huge aspect of basic and as well as sexual assault investigator training is using trauma-informed approaches to interviewing people and working with members of the public. Also helping them through stressful situations, helping where we can, provide resources. There's several great resources in Franklin County. If there's not something that we can help them with, there's definitely an agency out there that can help them. We have, CSO program, many different programs, and having that information readily available is important. The second part of the question was about how I manage stress.
How do you manage stress and ensure the well-being of your officers, yourself and your officers in demanding situations? So not necessarily the same situation, but how do you and how would you have your officers deal with stress? How do you identify that?
Well, the way I think having a strong foundation at home is incredibly important, and having if you limit your stress in your home life, you can kind of absorb everybody else's stress at work. I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm not saying you can do it all the time, because we're all human. But I would, try to mitigate, stressful issues at home. I have a very peaceful home, fortunately. And I would try to encourage that with my officers too. And, maybe they're having financial difficulties, to try to assist them with budgeting. And because ultimately we want our best selves showing up to work to be able to deal with the stress that this job naturally entails. But I feel strongly that it all kind of starts at home. And also having good support systems. I mean, I'm a believer in, counseling if it's necessary, and having those resources available for not just the public, but for officers. There's many different there's many different programs for officers that are dealing with stress. I think one of the shortcomings of smaller police departments is typically within larger departments, you have crisis debriefings after like big calls. And I think that would be something that Shutesbury and smaller communities should be a little bit better at. And, for efficiency, we can join that with the fire department since they're with us on most calls. But having all those resources in place is incredibly important. And so when something big happens or something really serious happens, we're not scrambling to figure out who we need to call. We already know who we need to call. So there's a lot of different aspects to that question, but it all comes down to resources and having strong foundations.
So can I follow up?
Of course you can.
So in an instance, kind of going back to the first part of the question, what is your approach when you encounter an individual who's obviously very agitated, not physically hostile, but verbally hostile to you as a police officer. What's your approach?
Well, we're trained in verbal de-escalation, a lot of it, especially with crisis intervention training is highly focused on verbal de-escalation, trying to build rapport. So it might not, it might not be about anything police related or anything to what's going on, but if you can find one thing to connect with someone about a common interest, that can really help de-escalate a situation. So I think you really have to focus on bringing the temperature down, not going to calls all amped up, because what you bring to the call ultimately translates into adding to the call. So if you go to the call very calm, your calmness can help calm people down. And I think a lot of times we're responding to people who are having real emergencies that are, it could be the worst, day of their lives. And we have to be very, very informed on that and be very, very caring and compassionate when we're dealing with anybody that's struggling with mental health issues. And obviously with calls like that, you do have EMS. That's EMS would be coming to evaluate, but although we don't have co-response in our town yet, we still have access to CSO's mobile response team.
CSO is
Clinical support options. It's kind of the crisis team for this area. I don't want to say Franklin County, they might serve some of Hampshire County too. So, but for this area, they have a mobile unit that you can try to reach, or that will come out and assist you with those things. Because sometimes we have to take a step back and recognize that they're the experts in dealing with those situations. So we can ultimately try to keep it calm and safe until those people can get on scene and make their evaluations as well.
Thank you.
Okay, a well-known Tewksbury resident and friend calls you, the police chief, directly on your personal phone. The friend has just been pulled over by one of your officers for driving 15 miles per hour over the speed limit in a residential area of town. They are visibly upset, acknowledging they were speeding, but explaining they were rushing to a family emergency and asking if you can personally intervene with the officer. How do you guide the officer in the appropriate leverage of their discretion in this situation while maintaining fairness and adherence to department policy?
I'm a little confused on the question. How do am I on the phone with the operator or the officer?
You're on the phone. Well, you're on the phone initially with the operator,
The
friend, the friend of yours who's driving the car.
I think, I want to be compassionate to the friend and say that, I am sorry they're having an emergency. However, I have as high standards of my friends as I do of my officers. So that I would hope they would call us in the event of an emergency.
In this case, they've gotten stopped for speeding.
Right.
So they've gotten stopped for speeding and they're saying, hi, can you help me? I have one of your officers here who's.
Yes, the answer is no, because it's not ethical. And, everybody has to follow the law and there are, however, that officer has discretion. Depending on the situation, you have to trust your officers, to use their discretion, and it shouldn't matter who you are. It shouldn't matter, what your name is or any of that. I would trust that officer to use their discretion appropriately. I don't think the officer would need any follow-up from me, because I'd be confident in their decision making, and basically they would be doing a good job as long as they did everything legally and ethically, in my opinion.
That's what you tell the officer, basically. Because the question was, how do you guide the officer? That was, and I guess you guide the officer by saying, as long as you're doing everything legal and all that, everything's cool.
In all situations, you have to do the right thing, the ethical and the ethical thing, and have integrity. So yeah, I mean, I don't, there wouldn't really, it's kind of a confusing question, only because like it doesn't add enough context. Like, are they giving the phone to the officer? Am I talking to the officer after the fact?
Right.
So, you know, that those kinds of things are confusing. Either way, you know, I would tell the officer, you know, use your discretion and do your job and do the right thing.
Right, I get it. Okay.
Okay, the chief of police in Shutesbury serves a dual role as both a working chief who responds to calls and also an administrative leader responsible for policy, training, and departmental oversight. This dual role can create some unique challenges. Can you provide a concrete example of a time when your direct engagement with a call for service or a resident directly informed departmental policy change or led to a new training initiative? So you were on the front line, something happened. Do you have an example?
I don't really have an example. We have very comprehensive policies, you know, about 1,000 pages worth. So I don't have an example of something that led to a policy change. That being said, when we respond to a situation and maybe it doesn't go the way we all wanted it to, we always analyze that after the fact and see what we could have done differently, and, you know, make sure we're adhering to policy too. Because there is a lot of policies. So being familiar with them is knowing them is very crucially important. I can't think of a specific instance though where that has been,
Okay.
where we've had to change policy.
Can I ask a follow-up?
Yes, to that, yeah.
So how would you, if there was a policy that needed a change in the department, what process would you go through to change a policy if there was one that appeared in an interaction? What's your process for changing?
Well, so ultimately policy, there's a lot of model policies. So through MPAC, which is the Municipal Police Accreditation Commission, they might not necessarily have the policies, but surrounding towns might have had similar issues. So I think using those local resources to get accredited policies, and they might not fit in with our small towns. So we might have, so the first process would be seeing if there's a model policy that already exists that's been accredited, and the accreditation process involves lawyers looking over it, making sure it's compliant with state law, constitutional law, seeing if there's any collective bargaining ramifications. So with that, you know, you'd have the policy kind of drafted for you, and in a sense, you could write it from scratch, but those policies are always a good place to start. Then you would kind of customize it to our small community, because certain things like rank structures, stuff like that kind of differs from area to area. So then you would have legal counsel, town council look over it. And I would want the select board and, you know, the town administrator's opinions on the policy too, as well as the officers' opinions on having their input on these policies. I think that fully answers that.
It does, yeah.
So I have another part to mine. Can you describe a situation where your close community ties or your daily interactions presented a professional challenge, and explain how you manage that situation to maintain impartiality and professional boundaries.
So close community ties, I think the only time that comes up is gift giving. Or it has come up as gift giving. And I think just having a really, being professional, and you can accept gifts, but knowing the ethical standards behind them. And that's the only thing I can think of on the spot where I guess your community, I guess it kind of relates to your community ties. Because people want to be generous, but as public employees, we fall under the ethic commissions and laws. That's the only
So
really.
that's an example of something that has come up for you.
Yeah, well, not that I've had to turn down anything, but like for instance, a gift card had come up. I just had to make sure that the value was under $50. Because we have to be conscious of those things, especially in public safety roles, because we don't, you never want to make it seem like, you're getting any special treatment because of the position you hold.
Thank you.
Beyond general accessibility, what specific community policing programs or initiatives would you prioritize implementing in Shutesbury? I'll let you do that one first, and then second question.
So we did the community giving tree this year, which was hugely successful. I think that I would like to carry that on every year. We had a lot of interest in it, and I think it brought some holiday spirit back to the town hall. And we're also working on we have it figured out, but the female self-defense class is one thing I would like to get in the future. That should be coming soon. I've also connected with the Amherst Police Chief because they have a continuing class that they do. And so if there's interest in, folks continuing to be in self-defense classes, they might be able to offer more classes, because the reality of small town policing is smaller budgets. So we want to provide those, it's great to provide those initial programs, and then to try to find maybe another community or another organization where they can continue with that specific example. They could continue doing those types of activities. There's several, different community policing ideas. I like events. I like being part of Halloween. We've done it. We did the trunk or treat. This was our second year with the trunk or treat. That's always, we had a big crowd this year too. We were part of the community bonfire, which was great because we haven't been part of that in the past. So the fire department was gracious in letting us be part of that this year. So just trying to kind of get involved in existing community events more, and creating some new ones as well.
How would you measure the effectiveness of these programs in terms of building trust and improving community police relations? And how might you adapt them given feedback or a changing community need?
There's a lot of tools to do surveys, so you could follow up with surveys. I think it's important to collect email information. For community giving tree, we collected email information. There's ways you can follow up to kind of get the metrics on those different programs to see if it's something the community likes and wants. It's kind of easy in the sense to tell, because if you get a lot of interest in it and a lot of people participate in it, you know that it's something the town likes and enjoys. But I think, you know, especially with the community giving tree, is we want to make sure going forward, I think we're going to get a lot of increased interest throughout the year. So kind of monitoring, keeping track of those numbers. You know, I have the spreadsheet for, you know, to keep track of, you know, how much participation there was. And keeping track over the years, once again with the spreadsheets, but keeping track over the years of, you know, how much participation we're getting. If the participation is starting to drop off, then maybe, you know, we need to adjust the program, to bring in new, you know, new people, new folks to the program, or create a new program. So kind of being ear to the ground with the community and what the community wants. And sometimes the best way to do that is to ask the community.
All right. Well, this is kind of a tough question because it sort of assumes that, well, it talks about you being the police chief in the future. You are the police chief now. But anyway, the role of police chief is critical in establishing tone, vision, and operational priorities for the department and the community. And assuming you are given this role to continue in this role, do you have any strategic plans for the first 90 days as police chief? What are the three main priorities during this critical onboarding period? And what specific actions will you take to execute them?
I think my main priority, that I haven't been able to address yet, is to get another full-time officer. We are short a full-time officer at the moment, since there's no one in the salary chief position. So that would be objective number one, to be able to provide some relief to myself and to Officer McGuire, mainly Officer McGuire, you know, and overtime and those sorts of things. But I'd like to keep doing what I am doing, which is, you know, really having a community-based focus, still being active in our patrolling efforts, addressing the concerns of the community. We got the 25-mile-an-hour townwide speed limit passed, and that's just another tool for us to mitigate speeding in areas like dirt roads where you can't post them. So being really, you know, staying in line with the community and listening and fulfilling those needs and those concerns of what's important and what they see as issues, and to keep functioning in that way and keep collaboration as well. The fire department, the police department, the highway department work phenomenally together now. We've, I think, improved a lot of relationships, not with our interdepartmental system, but also with external departments, other police departments, and that's been extremely beneficial.
Okay, cool. I got a couple more parts to this question that I'll ask here as best I can. Describe your plan for conducting a thorough assessment of the department, like the personnel, resources, and current operations. You've already mentioned some of that, like the full-time officer. Which key internal and external stakeholders, for example, the select board officers, community groups, will you prioritize meeting with during this time? And what specific information will you seek from each?
So I've done a deep dive into the budget. I've gone into the last 3 years. When I first came into this role, I went into the last 3 years of the budget to see where our money was being spent, where we could potentially save money, and you know, how to, because our budget is very limited. We, you know, when we need things such as equipment and those sorts of things. If we can keep costs down for things such as toner, I've mentioned this before, but toner, I was able to cut the price down by half by using recycled cartridges. There's ways to save money, and ultimately those little things add up. So I've kind of already taken a comprehensive look at the department. I'm also, Franklin County as a whole, through the Chiefs Association, is trying to, or wants to adopt kind of policies across the board for police departments. Now, they're gonna differ a little bit based on departments, because the policies that we would be referencing off of are a larger department that has a much more robust rank structure and different units and that sort of thing. But taking a hard look at policies, taking a hard look at and having officers review policies and staying on a schedule of reviewing policies, because I believe that we need to be very, very familiar with those policies and procedures. And you can, in, you know, town resources, we can, or town committees that we could use, we can definitely use, request the insight of the finance committee, the select board, different other different committees and organizations. FERCOG, for a lot of traffic safety related matters, FERCOG can be great. Right now, we have FERCOG coming in on Thursday to look at the intersection of the library, because that was a concern. So really just staying on top of kind of going through how the department has done things in the past and making sure that we're doing things the most efficient way and most cost-effective way, and really taking a deep look into that, which I have done. There has been a lot of work that has needed to be done to bring us up to certain standards.
So based on your understanding of Shutesbury, of your department, can you identify one specific achievable early win, if you will, like in the first 90 days, what you would sort of prioritize the first 90 days and hopefully, let's get a win out of the situation and make it look good and make the department look good, the town look good, and us look good.
Most importantly, yeah.
Well, there's a couple achievable wins, I think, on the horizon. We've put in for we're hoping through a program that we might get trailers, speed trailers. And I know that will help with areas such as the lake. That would be a win for the town, because they are probably one of the most requested items for areas where we're having speeding issues. I think it would be a really good win for the town to get another full-time employee because it's not just a win for the police department. I think it's a win for the town because it provides us with optimal coverage. And that's what we seek to have. We wouldn't have, I would say, getting that candidate selected within the first 90 days. They're not going to be, field trained and everything within those 90 days, but getting a really good candidate in here that has the same core values that we have in the department and wants to work in a small town and wants to stay for longevity with the department. So that would be the best achievable goal. But
okay, good.
And the last question, imagine you have identified recurring issues in Shutesbury. A couple of examples, increased complaints about minor property damage, such as vandalism and irresponsible motorboat use, sound familiar, at Lake Wyola during the summer. As the chief, you have a limited budget and a small team to address these seasonal enforcement demands. How do you go about creating programs to address these issues?
Well, I actually have an example of that. With the lake, we have a boat that's been parked up at the EPOs have a boat up at the lake.
Environmental police.
Environmental
Yeah.
police, sorry,
Yep.
yes, environmental police officers have a boat up at the lake, and it's currently, I believe, parked in the DCR area. I know in the past there was talk about potentially getting dock access from the Lake Viola Association, and the EPOs would be happy to put that boat on the water and keep it on the water. And that way we would potentially be able to do patrols with EPOs to do some enforcement, but more education. Education and enforcement, I think, are equally as important to be out on the lake. So that's, as a hypothetical, trying to utilize the state resources that are available, other local resources that are available. Another example, this is a community policing example, so it's not specific to this question, but using, Amherst Police is happy to have our residents go to their self-defense training. So kind of, using that network of other agencies and being able to communicate with them, have good rapport with them, and we're able to help each other too. We have a lot to offer as the Shutesbury Police Department as well. We do we respond to a lot of calls outside of town as support. So we have very good coverage. So we are backup on a lot of calls in other towns. So we bring stuff to the table as well, but being able to use those relationships to meet the objectives while realizing that we have a small budget and less, not a robust amount of personnel as well. Personnel, considerations have to be taken into account too, because if I have an officer in a boat, I also have to have an officer on land for liability purposes. If there's a call on land that's serious, it takes time to dock a boat and all of those things. So there's a lot of considerations in that aspect. But I think the working with the lieutenant from the environmental police, trying to find a way to use their resources, and they're happy to do it too. They're happy to help. So making those relationships and keeping them strong by all working together.
So just a couple of quick follow-ups. How would you measure, let's say you came up with that program and maybe it was, using the boats with the environmental police officers. How would you measure the effectiveness of any program? And I guess I'll just piggyback on the rest of it. And then how would you gather feedback from the community and adapt a program? Let's say, I don't know if the boat is the best one. You had a vandalism. You came up with some ideas about if we were having vandalism in town, came up with a program. How would you measure the effectiveness, and then how do you gather feedback from the community?
Well, so with something, with like vandalism, I guess it kind of depends on the type of vandalism. If we're talking about, a big, like a lot of mailboxes, maybe that's an issue.
Probably, right? Or sign, or ceiling signs.
Yeah. And encouraging the community to report something if they see an issue to report it to us as quick as possible, because the quicker something's reported, the more chance we have at mitigating that issue. And keeping an open line to the community, because the community is the best eyes and ears. And a lot of times now, albeit driveways tend to be very long in Shutesbury, but a lot of in some areas, namely Leverett Road and a few other areas, many people have cameras these days. So using all of the, asking the community if we can have maybe access to, or they can check to see if they have any video footage, so we can try to figure out who's doing it, and then we can figure out how to address it. And I think as far as figuring out the effectiveness of it, I think if we were able to catch the individuals, it would make it very effective. And if we weren't able to, we would have to kind of take a look at how we could improve in the future, or use different methods in the future. But there are many different ways with something in regards to that, where you could utilize the community to be on the lookout and help with those types of complaints.
Thank you.
And lastly, do you have any questions for us?
I don't have any questions.
That's honest.
Okay.
We can
Well, we really appreciate your taking the time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good to see you, Kevin.
Kevin, see you later.
Oh.
Okay. So now, our next step is to go into executive session for reason number 8, to consider our applicants for potential employment or appointment. So do I hear motion to go executive session? Everyone on screen how would we like that?
I think what's gonna be is I'll cut audio and visual and stop recording.
Okay,
I'm gonna leave the stream up, but I'm gonna ask that folks still remove themselves, and you can always click to go back into the meeting and it'll prompt me to let you in. We're done.
okay, okay. So it's basically a waiting room.
Yep.
Creating.
Go back to the
waiting room. Okay.
creating a waiting room.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, so if we could, once we go into executive session, everyone on screen could go out and come back in at later comments. So I'll make a motion to enter executive session for reason number 8, to consider the applicants for employment or appointment by preliminary screening, as if open meeting law would be, open meeting will be detrimental effect to obtain qualified applicants provided. However, this clause shall not apply to any meeting including meetings of the preliminary screening committee to consider and interview applicants who have passed prior. So for Devin and Peters. That's
I'll second,
Okay.
and we're not going back. Well, we are
and
going back
return to public session.
and
Yep,
return to public session at the
Yeah.
end of our.
at the end of the meeting. Yep,
So I'll second that.
okay. All those in favor?
Stucker, aye.
Farrell, I.
Make peace, O'Neill, aye.
Okay.
Okay.
ahead.
All right, I'm gonna cut